So there appears to be something of an impending bloodbath in 2022 among the media, the mainstream media pundits and broadcasters in the United States. And I thought it was worth going through just a bit of very recent history as to what has been happening. Because people like Project Veritas have been going at them very, very hard. Godspeed. And it looks like it's bearing fruit. So you may remember that at the beginning of December, CNN fired Chris Cuomo. I love this. Written by Brian Stelter. Et to Brian.
Was he just the crying emoji? Wojak.
I imagine he was. But I love that CNN had to put out an article, CNN fires Chris Cuomo. I mean, that must have hurt. But Chris Cuomo is the kind of globalist tool that thinks that you're not allowed to look at the WikiLeaks
and the
dumps and things
the
like
funny
this.
thing with Cuomo...
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that this was a major loss for CNN because Cuomo was the face of their news for a while. He was the face of their best viewed program.
Yep, he absolutely was. But CNN, and I love the way that Stelter puts this. CNN said that anchor Chris Cuomo has been terminated by the news effective immediately. Why the scare quotes, Brian? Very, very strange. But this came out because of his inappropriate levels of familiarity with his own brother, whom he had, which was former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, whom he had interviewed numerous times. And when Andrew Cuomo was accused of sexual assault, apparently Chris Cuomo was advising him behind the scenes.
Not just that, I've covered this a few weeks ago. It wasn't just that he was advising him behind the scenes. He was actively going to other news sources and trying to find out information so he could alert Andrew ahead of time before it came out into the public.
Anyway, moving on. So it turns out that one of Chris Cuomo's producers, longtime producers, was a paedophile, which I'm sure you covered as well.
Yes.
So he'd been there for literally decades, I understand. And he was...
I think he'd been there since... he'd been a veteran sort of in the business. But I think he'd been with CNN since maybe 2013, 2014.
Right, okay.
But
he's a veteran within the business.
Yes.
But he apparently bragged about luring girls as young as 7 to his home for sexual subservience training, which is unbelievably disgusting. Like, these are the people you work with, Chris. How did you not know about this? You know, you're cheek to jowl with this guy all day, every day.
And this guy went full Epstein and had a private property specifically, it seems, so that he could just bring girls here.
Mad, isn't it? But this was John Griffin, who's of course indicted. And so the CNN were like, right, okay, I guess we're going to regretfully have to terminate his employment. But this isn't the only pedo producer at CNN, weirdly enough. There is a second one. Jake Tapper's producer is also under a criminal investigation for basically the same reasons. Serious allegations involving potential juvenile victims, and detectives have been assigned to the Child Exploitation Squad. Again, how can you not know that these people are doing stuff like this?
And you mentioned Project Veritas. It's interesting that they're always so very obviously scared of Project Veritas, where when all of this stuff always comes out, because honestly, what would you have to fear if there was nothing that you needed to hide?
Well, this is the thing, right? These being a producer for such a major show like this is an important job.
Yes.
It probably is paid very well, and they have lots of staff under them. It's not like these people are nobodies. You know, they're embedded in a hierarchy, and they know it, and they're taking advantage of their positions. That's what's happening. But of course, this person was fired as well. Regretfully, I'm sure. And on Saturday, Project Veritas dropped another video, door-stopping various CNN anchors and producers for comment, and of course, none of them wanted to say anything about this.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, they went to Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper, Jake Tapper, and a couple of others, and obviously none of them wanted to say a goddamn thing. But you can go check that out on... why is Veritas's channel? Don't know why it suddenly skipped my mind. But anyway, and just to be clear, you know, you've got people like Don Lemon who are accused of sexual harassment as well. The chap who he accused, who was his accuser, was a Dustin Heiss, went on Megyn Kelly's show and was just like, well, look, this isn't going anywhere. And I think it's because Don Lemon, he says he's protected by the fact that he's an African-American gay man on television and I'm just some nobody.
I mean,
which seems to be the case.
Sounds legit. Sorry, did CNN have this as part of their hiring application or something?
Are they contractually obliged to be sex offenders?
It seems more and more likely every day, doesn't it?
It does indeed. But do you know what the allegations are?
With Don Lemon, no, I've not heard of these before today.
They're unbelievable, actually. They're not worse than the paedophile network rings that are being operated in CNN, right? But this is just it shows you a kind of unbelievable level of arrogance from the people in these institutions, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, these people consider themselves to be better than the rest of us. You can tell by the attitudes when they're actually broadcasting.
Absolutely, clearly. This is why the impending fall from grace that they're all essentially facing is going to be all the more sweet, right? Because Heist claimed in his suit that Lemon had put his hand down his pants, rubbed his private parts, and then shoved his fingers into Heist's face.
Jesus.
How gross is that?
It's just grim.
What an absolute lunatic you have to be in the sort of frame of mind to do that to someone else. But again, how arrogant do you have to be, and how secure in yourself do you have to be to do that? But anyway, so good news is that CNN's ratings are, of course, plummeting. They had a good beginning of 2021, but towards the end, they literally lost half of their audience.
Good.
Compared to their 2020 ratings, CNN was 40% down in primetime viewers and minus 48% in the 25 to 54 demographic, which is the one that matters.
Looks like Trump was paying the bills.
Yes. They're just a third down in total views across the 24-hour day period. And so it's going very, very poorly. And of course, there are lots of memes made about CNN these days. We can go to the post I made on Getter. This is just, good stuff. You can get that up, John. Like, CNN may well call you a domestic terrorist, but they're child molesters, so, they would say that.
Is a compliment coming from them?
Possibly, yes. Yeah.
If they think I'm the bad guy.
You're a threat to our child trafficking network, you domestic terrorist. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not going to apologize. Anyway, so the next person who looks like they're about to get the axe is Joy Reid. Now, do you know who Joy Reid is?
I am familiar with Joy Reid, sadly.
If you're not familiar with Joy Reid, I suppose we can just call her a race-baiting Marxist agitator who works for MSNBC. So this is a thread by a chap called John Nicosia, who is the president of News Cycle Media, the former managing editor of Mediate, former breaking news editor at DC Examiner. So he's an insider in the industry. And he has been told by a source of his that Joy Reid is basically going to be given the Majid Nawaz treatment soon because she's apparently, quote unquote, unmanageable. She's been hosting her primetime slots, in the 7 p.m. Eastern time slot show for about, just over 8 months. And she was their first black female primetime anchor, which excuses nothing.
Well, of course
Token diversity hire.
Wouldn't shock me that she's unmanageable. Did you watch the interview she did with Chris Rufo?
I saw clips of it.
Yes, where she was insufferable, smug, condescending, and was just laughing at his face the whole time. So if she's anything like that to her producers, I can imagine she would be unmanageable.
Well, yeah, Chris Rufo being an expert in critical race theory, Joy Reid being someone who knows nothing about critical race theory, but understands that as a black person she benefits from this, is doing everything she can to promote critical race theory, and was insufferable towards
She had
Rufo.
Kimberly Crenshaw on as well.
Yes, she did.
And she was trying to diminish the Marxist influence by going, well, it's not really Marxist, is it?
Yeah, and then Kimberly Crenshaw didn't answer. She answered something else. We've covered it previously. But anyway, so John says that Joy Reid will lose her show in the next round of reshuffling at MSNBC, and she does not have a show come mid-spring. The decision has been made. The only thing left is messaging on the move, which will be the ratings, which we'll get into in a minute. As is the case for Chris Cuomo at CNN even, Reid has allies at Comcast. However, she is viewed by unmanageable as many, and also similar to Cuomo, it appears those allies have found she has been less than truthful about past incidents, with more to come. Also, like Cuomo at CNN, watch out for MSNBC/Comcast defend her right until the announcement. And he had previously tweeted about this in November, and apparently this has been coming for quite some time. And so the reason is that Joy Reid is problematic.
I remember this now.
Yeah, she's been somewhat problematic, as this article from The Intercept shows. She had been, between 2007 and 2009, she was slightly less progressive on homosexuality than is the modern progressive. And she had repeatedly used, quote, ugly anti-gay stereotypes. So Joy Reid was based and red-pilled until she got a job at MSNBC. But she's also bonkers, though. And I think this is the important part. We can get to the next one, John. So basically, she during the 2020 coverage from MSNBC of what was happening, she called Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who is a black person But
Oh, here we go.
coincidentally, more importantly, I think he's conservative. She called him Uncle Clarence, as in a reference to an Uncle Tom, which is just gross.
Well, he's not politically black to her, is she?
This is the guy that Joe Biden tried to scupper his career when he was being appointed and confirmed to the Supreme Court. And of course, in typical Democrat fashion, they brought out some woman from like 30 years ago to say he sexually assaulted me. It's like just like with Kavanaugh. Yep. So you are just such gross and unoriginal monsters. But she's got some amazing takes, and I just love some of these takes because no one believes this. No one believes takes like this, right? She says, "I'll say it again. People on the right would trade all the tax cuts for the ability to openly say the N-word like the good old days." People on the right aren't Democrats, you nut. To them, not being able to be openly racist and discriminatory without consequence is oppression. Trump is the avatar for this freedom. She's mad, right? And of course, she compared the parents who were in their schools opposing the teaching of critical race theory to segregationists. Republican parents are like Democrat segregationists now. Enjoy Reid's backwards, baffling world. And
mental.
Yeah, and this though is rather ironic given what the critical race theorists actually think. Again, if Joy Reid knew anything about critical race theory, she wouldn't say that, because critical race theory is founded on anti-integrationist ideology. If we can go to the next link, you can go and watch videos that I've done about this, which is the CRT Explained series that I'm currently working on, in number 1, episode 1, where we go through Derek Bell's initial essays in the critical race theory canon, where he sits there and goes, this integration is bad. What we need is segregation. That would be better.
Yeah, the explanations are very good just because of how impressively explicit these these writers are about it. It's not, well, I mean, I was about to say it's not like Ibram X. Kendi, but even he's saying, oh, we need to fix past discrimination with present discrimination.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a cycle that will just carry on. Great.
Yeah, it's totally mask off, basically. And they're not shy about saying it. But anyway, so yes, in June 2021, Reid's ratings were terrible. So when she goes, if we can go to the next one, John, this will be framed around her terrible ratings. Back then, she was between adults of 25 to 54, she was only averaging 149,000 viewers, which is a good segment for us, but that's her average of views, and she's on national television on a major news network. But come January 2022, they're even worse. They're down to 123,000 viewers. So her ratings, if you can go to the next one, John, have just collapsed. And so the question is, where is this ratings collapse coming from? And one rankings study has shown that it's down to a lack of trust. We can go to the next one. Basically, Brand Keys founder and president Robert Piaskov said that trust ratings tend to be associated with overall viewership. But I don't really see how he's come to this conclusion. If you can get that little graph up there, John. Right, that there, you can see that CNN began in 2018 with 69% trust rating, and that's gone up to 87% because of the coronavirus pandemic, and yet their viewer count is 40% lower than it was.
Well, to be fair, I can understand how that might happen, which is the people who didn't trust them that much have just migrated elsewhere.
Possibly. Actually, that's probably quite likely. The people who have remained have essentially become the cult-like NPCs.
So it's an echo chamber.
Yes. But the point is, it's a lack of trust overall. I should have got at the details of general public trust in the media, but we've been through it so many times, it's like this. Anyway, so the point of all of this is to say, well, look, where are these people going? What are people watching, if not the most trusted names in news? And the answer is a caveman on Spotify.
Papa Joe.
Papa Joe. He is absolutely massacring them.
Yeah.
In the ratings.
Bear in mind that Tucker Carlson is like leaps and bounds ahead of places like CNN as well. And even he's being demolished by Joe. Yep.
I mean, if you can get that graph up, John, you can see that aside from Joe Rogan, the top 5 are Fox News, right? Tucker Carlson, The 5, Hannity, Fox News Primetime, and Ingram Angle, all Fox News, right? And so if we take that out, what are they left with? CNN Primetime, which is less than 1 million viewers, MSNBC Primetime, which together is about 2 million viewers, and then the Rachel Maddow Show, which is another 2 million viewers. Joe Rogan's getting 11 million viewers per show. So he's literally 3 times more popular than all of the left-wing media combined in the United States.
Yep, and you can see the difference between those as well, where those people like Joe Rogan are facilitating open and honest free discussion.
Dialogue.
I know, which is
conversation.
Which is basically the exact opposite of what CNN is trying to do. It's trying to shut down anyone who doesn't say expressly what they want them to.
Exactly. Joe Rogan is to narrative engineering what, like, explosives are to building. Like he is absolutely, and this is a real problem for them. If you've got a particular narrative that you're trying to impose on the public, and then you've just got someone who's massively popular like Joe Rogan, who gets someone like Dr. Malone on, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine,
sit there, get high, and listen to it,
and let him explain his position without calling him a bigot. Then you end up getting massive amounts of energy expended to desperately try and counteract what they're doing. If we can go to the next one, John, you can see like the AP fact check. Mass formation psychosis, an unfounded theory spreading online, I wonder where from, suggests millions of people have been hypnotized into believing mainstream ideas to combat COVID-19. Psychology experts say the concept is not supported by evidence. What are you talking about? I'm watching it. I can literally see it happening. We can get to the next one, John. Like, you can see, like, this is...
Just go on Twitter, it's obvious.
Yeah, I just, like, any amount of direct observation of my own personal experience shows me there are a bunch of people who literally think that COVID is the worst thing that's happening ever and will do anything that the state tells them to do, right? And so they're like, well, fact checkers say there's an unfounded theory. No, there's plenty of foundation for this theory. We're watching it, which is why when Dr. Malone went on Joe Rogan, this became a viral meme. This was mimetic. Oh yeah, it's mass formation psychosis. Agree. And we've seen plenty of, like, viral clips of Leo and I did a clip of it the other day, the top 10 COVID wet wipes of like Karens screeching at people because they're not wearing masks. It's like, yeah, but you're just being a psycho about this. Like, This is genuine psychosis. There's no harm being done to you.
There's another funny thing as well, which is when the media latches onto this and tries to refute everything that Rogan says.
Oh, yeah.
They're just giving him free publicity. People watching are probably like, oh, well, this seems interesting. I might go check it out.
But also, it's the entire negation of all of the narrative has to be negated, which means nothing that Dr. Malone could have said is now true. And it's like, look, I don't believe someone becomes a doctor by literally saying nothing that's correct and true. I just don't believe that. Like, you can say, well, this...
I'm sure even Fauci told the truth at some point.
Well, he must have done at some point, But this is the thing. Like, they have to negate absolutely everything. And this requires an awful lot of energy. You can see the media cycle sort of like all spring into action. So it's not just the mainstream news networks. It's like the Associated Press and various other, the BBC and all that. But think of the amount of energy that Joe Rogan has expended on doing a 2-hour podcast with Dr. Malone. Not much.
Yeah.
It's just another day for him.
He's probably got guys who organise it all for him as well.
Oh, I know he does. Yeah, he's got, people in the back who just organise it. Dr. Malone turns up, he sits down, he has a chat with him. That was fun. And then he goes off and hunts an elk or something, whatever it is he does in his free time. But look at the amount of energy he's costing the mainstream media. They have to now get their teams of fact checkers and experts to craft a narrative that has to be spread by, literally thousands of people in this entire ecosphere. They have to constantly churn this out until they feel that they're sufficiently on top of his narrative that it just took him 2 hours of chatting to create. Like, this is an unsustainable war of attrition for the media. They're ruining their credibility, their trust is low, and people are not interested in watching them. And Joe Rogan is just chilling out on his podcast.
Doing monkey impressions.
Just do the energy calculation of the thing. And you can see that this is not a sustainable business model. So we are looking, and you can see from the heads that have been taken, that the MSM is genuinely falling apart.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the content we have on the site, such as this article from Hugo that is free, which is Why the Housing Crisis is Happening, in which he explores the real issues about why we have such a crisis in the West. If you'd like to find out what else is coming out on the website, you can always go to getter.com and follow us at lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.